The black box. He didn't even unwrap it. He looked at the small black box in my hands, looked around at his wife's family standing in that expensive living room, and dropped it straight into the kitchen trash can, in front of everyone. Dad, I really don't need your garage junk anymore. The room went quiet enough that I heard the lid of the trash can click shut. My name is Elmer Sasser. I'm 72, retired auto mechanic, Knoxville, Tennessee. And the day my own son threw away 4 years of my work in front of 30 strangers was the day I finally understood exactly how far apart we'd grown. Nobody laughed. Nobody said anything at all. I stood there in my good shirt, the one I'd ironed twice that morning, holding nothing where a small black box used to be. Bradley turned back to his wife's cousin mid-conversation like nothing had happened. I set my paper plate down on the counter and walked myself out to my truck. I didn't say goodbye. I don't think anyone noticed I'd left. I drove home that evening with my hands tied on the wheel, replaying the exact moment my son looked at something I'd spent 4 years building and decided it belonged in a trash can before he'd even opened it. Bradley was 40 that day. I'd known him since before he could walk, taught him how to change his own oil at 12, how to rebuild a carburetor at 16, how to save every spare dollar he earned working weekends in my garage instead of spending it the way his friends did. Somewhere between then and now, he'd married into money. Vanessa's family owned 3-car dealerships across East Tennessee, the shiny, brand-new kind, nothing like the grease-stained garage I'd worked out of for 41 years. Bradley had started talking differently around her family, dressing differently, referring to my old shop, the one that put food on his table his entire childhood, as Dad's little hobby, whenever her relatives were in earshot. I told myself it didn't matter what he called it, as long as he still knew what it meant. Standing in that kitchen watching him drop my gift in the trash, I understood, finally, that he didn't. Or maybe he did, and that was exactly the problem. Here's what was actually inside that box. For years earlier, I'd found a 1969 Mustang Fastback rusting behind a barn 2 counties over, more weeds growing through the floorboard than actual metal left holding the thing together. I bought it for $1,100 from a widow who just wanted it gone. I spent every free evening after that in my garage, rebuilding it piece by piece, engine block up, exactly the way I'd taught Bradley to work on cars back when he still wanted to learn anything from me at all. I never told him about it. I wanted it to be a surprise, something real to hand him on his 40th birthday, proof that his old man still had something worth giving, even if it wasn't the kind of gift Vanessa's family would recognize wrapped in anything shiny. Inside that small black box wasn't a toy or a trinket. It was the title, transferred fully into his name 3 weeks earlier, along with both sets of keys. And he'd thrown it in the trash without opening it. I got the call 2 days later, close to 11 at night. It was Bradley. "Dad," he said, his voice strange, tight in a way I hadn't heard from him in years. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth." "About what?" "The box. From the party." My stomach turned over slowly. "What about it?" "Mateo found it in the trash before the cleaning crew came through. He was digging through recyclables, said something rattled inside it, so he opened it out of curiosity." Mateo was Vanessa's teenage cousin. "Dad," Bradley said, his voice cracking slightly, "there's a title in here. My name's already on it." "Dad, is this for the Mustang parked behind your shop? The one you've had covered under a tarp for years?" I didn't answer right away. "Dad," he said again, quieter now, almost afraid of the answer. "I need you to tell me what this actually is." "It's yours," I said. "Has been since I filed the paperwork 3 weeks ago." The silence on the line lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. "Dad, I threw it in the trash. In front of everyone. I told you I didn't want your garage junk, and it was." He couldn't finish the sentence. I didn't finish it for him either. "I have to see you," he said instead. "Tomorrow. Please." He showed up at my shop the next morning before I'd even unlocked the front door, standing in the parking lot in the same clothes from the night before, like he hadn't slept at all. I let him in. He walked straight past me to the tarp in the back corner, the one I'd kept covered for 3 weeks so the surprise would hold, and pulled it back himself. Sunlight caught the fresh paint job, the same deep forest green Bradley had always said was his favorite color, ever since he was maybe 7 years old, riding along in my old truck to the parts store. He stood there a long moment, just staring at it. "Dad, this is worth more than my truck. More than Vanessa's truck." I looked it up on the drive over. Restored 69 fastbacks like this go for $85,000. I didn't build it for the money, I said. I built it because you used to sit right there on that stool and watch me work on cars just like it, and you'd ask me 100 questions a night about how engines actually worked. I wanted to give you something that remembered that kid, even if you'd mostly forgotten him yourself. Bradley's face crumpled in a way I hadn't seen since he was young enough to still cry in front of me without embarrassment. Dad, I'm so sorry. I don't even know how to explain why I did what I did last night. Try, I said. He sat down on that same old stool, the same one from when he was a boy, and put his head in his hands for a long moment before he spoke. Vanessa's family, they've never really respected what you do, what we came from. I got so used to going along with the jokes, agreeing when they called your work a hobby, laughing along instead of correcting them, because it was easier than making things awkward at every single family dinner. I convinced myself it didn't matter what I let them believe, as long as I still knew the truth underneath it. And last night, I saw a plain black box, and some part of me just reacted the way I've been trained to react around them for the past 6 years. I didn't even think. I just saw something small and unimpressive, and I threw it away before I let myself actually consider what it might be. Before you considered who it was from, I said quietly. He nodded, unable to look at me for a moment. I threw away 4 years of your work, Dad, in front of 30 people, without even giving it the respect of opening it first. That's not about the car. That's about who I let myself become around people I was trying too hard to impress. I let that sit between us a long moment. Bradley, I'm not interested in you feeling guilty forever, I said. I'm interested in you deciding, right now, whether you actually want to be the kind of man who still knows what real value looks like, even when it doesn't come wrapped in anything shiny. He looked up at me, eyes red, and nodded slowly. I want that, he said. I really do. He didn't take the car home that day. Instead, he asked if he could come by the shop on weekends, same as he used to, and actually learn the rest of what I still had to teach him, rather than simply owning something he hadn't earned the understanding of yet. I told him I'd like that more than he probably realized. 2 weeks later, he invited me to dinner at his house, a real dinner this time. Just the 3 of us, him, Vanessa, and me. Nothing performed for an audience of relatives who'd never bothered learning my name properly in 6 years of marriage. Vanessa apologized too, that evening, admitted she'd noticed the way her family talked about my work over the years and had never once said anything to stop it, mostly out of not wanting to create tension at her own family gatherings. I told her I appreciated her saying so, and that going forward, actions would matter to me considerably more than apologies, however sincere. She agreed that was fair. It's been about 5 months now. Bradley comes by the shop most Saturdays, hands covered in grease again for the first time in years, slowly relearning things I taught him back when he was still young enough to think it was the most interesting thing in the world. The Mustang sits finished in his driveway now, though he told me, almost sheepishly, that he still hasn't taken it to any of Vanessa's family gatherings. Not because I'm ashamed of it, he clarified quickly, because I want it to stay something that's actually mine first, before it becomes something for anyone else to comment on. I told him that sounded like exactly the right instinct, maybe the first one in years. Last Saturday, working together under the hood of an old Chevy pickup a neighbor brought in for a tune-up, Bradley asked me, out of nowhere, if I still had that widow's number, the one I'd bought the Mustang from originally. Why? I asked. I want to thank her, he said, for letting go of something she probably should have kept longer, so it could end up meaning something to somebody who almost didn't deserve it. I told him I thought that was a generous way of putting it. He said he was trying to get better at those, lately, one honest moment at a time. Some gifts, I've learned, aren't really about what's sitting inside the box at all. They're about who's still standing there, willing to open it properly, once they finally understand what they almost threw away. If this story got to you, hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one.